There are some reasons, however, why comparative studies are often stuck at the international or cross-national comparison arena. For example, methodological nationalism is a term used to describe the problem of viewing the nation-state as the natural societal container and unit of analysis. And the production of statistics by every subnational, national, and international unit promotes this line of thinking. Consequently, researchers may underplay variation within the nation-state because they are looking for variation among nation-states to create national models. Another sociologist, David FitzGerald, argues that the issue of whether the scale of comparison is appropriate is often forgotten, and a fixed sense that a nation-state has always been there hides the variable and contingent boundaries of the entity that is being compared. And he does so with some great examples. For example, in critiquing the ways that the scale of comparison is forgotten, FitzGerald asks if a very large country like China should be considered the same kind of unit as a very small one like Belize. Or when critiquing the ways that the variable and contingent boundaries of the nation-state being compared are hidden, he asks if emigration from Poland and emigration from India mean the same thing historically, or even just in the 20th century. These are difficult questions to ask or answer, largely because many of us make a career out of isolating and comparing very specifically defined and contextualized phenomena. But is this always appropriate? Our challenge then is to begin to understand when we have developed or applied comparative methodologies to phenomena, situations, or contexts that cannot bear comparison. And I mean that seriously. There may be, in fact, there most certainly are, scenarios when comparisons must be carefully constructed, or even better, not constructed at all. But how do we recognize when this is, and when is comparison less helpful than harmful? And finally, the spread of comparative methodologies into all social science disciplines and beyond may be natural, but is it necessary? Yes, definitely. Comparison is compelling because it reminds us that social phenomena are not fixed or natural. Right? Even though comparison itself may be natural, the phenomena might be not. But more importantly, through comparison, we can decenter what is taken for granted in a particular time or place after we learn that something was not always so, or that it is different elsewhere or for other people. That's from Blomrath. In other words, we can argue for comparative approaches to social phenomenon and that they provide a foundation upon which to understand phenomena to a degree not possible before. But we can also argue that comparative methods have a less desirable effect as well. Comparisons can identify and institutionalize distinctions and division. Comparisons can establish boundaries in an effort to look across them. And comparisons can reproduce stratification among people and situations and contexts in ways that non-comparative work cannot. So is the concept of comparative science a form of harmful globalization? And is a comparative approach evidence of hegemony or agenda, which is driven by the interests of dominant groups and researchers working to their advantage? Again, from Irene Blomrath, comparison without careful forethought can leave researchers open to criticism when peers and reviewers fear that an expansion of cases undermines the attention paid to any one case, and by implication the quality of the data. We definitely have a challenge set before us as comparative researchers. Not only how do we compare the comparisons, but how do we know when comparative study is appropriate or not? Now, these are just a few of the many potential pitfalls we must be aware of. But I also want to remind us that there's a promise to comparison. Since the context of comparative study is one of the most important yet misunderstood influences on comparative research in all fields, The International Symposium on Comparative Sciences aims to build a conceptual infrastructure for comparative methodologies and for comparative approaches in all comparative studies fields. And to do this, the capacity for understanding and identifying the comparative method in various fields is necessary. It's essential. To sustain comparative collaboration and mutual benefit, this symposium builds a scholarly base for continued awareness, development, and application of comparative methods relevant to all fields. And we can accomplish this by considering a few simple questions as we move through the symposium and onward with our work. For example, how do we do comparison that helps us understand without institutionalizing inequality? How do we design comparative studies that benefit from the shared wisdom of many disciplines and fields rather than just working in isolation? And where do we go from here if we want to value what we share as well as what makes us unique? If we truly want to critically and constructively examine the ways that we can compare our methodologies, our approaches, our studies, our disciplines, then where do we go? What are constructively critical approaches to our field of research? As comparativists, we are fundamentally interested in change, either how it happens or why it doesn't. And this symposium gives us the opportunity to facilitate change in the comparative sciences. And I'm excited about what we discover as a part of this symposium and the work that moves forward. I expect that if you made it through this introductory talk, and for those of you listening, these screencasts, I expect you're excited about it too. And I'm looking forward to the work that we're going to accomplish as we move through our own pitfalls and promises of comparison in the next few days, months, and years. Thank you.